Well, let me say, you've recruited me. I'm closer to your side now because, to be honest with you, you're right. We need somebody in there fighting actively on our behalf. Like, get ahead of it. Maybe something they could say will stop the next killing, even though it didn't even stop the killing that took place immediately after this. Like, we did not get 30 minutes good to celebrate the conviction of Derek Chauvin before police killed in Columbus, Ohio. Police killed 15-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant. Now, as details are coming out about this, Ma'Khia is reportedly the one who called police because she was under attack. And by the time the police got there, she was on the offensive and she had gotten a knife. You could see it in the body cam video. We're not going to play it because of the graphic nature of it. Yeah. But you can see this was a child who was fighting for her life. She called the police. And by the time the police got there, they ended up killing her.
Benjamin Dixon, James, Bubba Williams. If I'm so frustrated, and let me tell you why. And it was happening as we were about to celebrate or be calm from when we heard the guilty verdict, right? The rhetoric that's going on online. Many people from that video are saying, what was the cop supposed to do? Here, and hear me out on this as I walk y'all through how I feel about that. What was the cop supposed to do if that little girl, she's a little girl, she's 15 years old, called the cops because she wanted to feel protected on her property that people came to, right? She has a knife in her hand to protect herself against getting jumped, which potentially could have killed her. It could have been something where she got hit on concrete. They could have jumped her. They could have gave her a concussion. They could have did whatever. Okay? So she pulled out a knife because she's on her property. And as soon as the cops came, jumps out the car, not even 30 seconds, within 30 seconds, shoots her in the chest 4 times. As if she's a dog, like the lady said, a dog on the streets, a child. And what everybody is saying, because the video that put out, because what they do is very systemic as well. They put out the video knowing that she's holding a knife in her hand. You think that she sees police officers pull up? Knowing that she's holding a knife in her hand, they wanted to make sure they showed it at that angle so that we can see and look at her as somebody who was suspicious, somebody who was about to kill somebody, not as somebody who was about to defend themselves on their own property against trespassers. Yeah. Now, listen to me clearly. The fact that people are online and playing right into that rhetoric, right into that narrative and saying, we have to understand. I had to retweet one girl. We have to understand when we're wrong, guys. And it's Black trauma that makes us look at videos like this and say that that she didn't deserve to die.
That was a comment?
That was the comment. And I said, but that wasn't the only comment that I seen in that way. There were so many other ones that are saying we as Black people are wrong when we watch this video and we say that little girl wasn't dangerous. When I'm at my home, so now let's say
she
this
had
girl
a right
was
to defend herself.
Say this girl was a 25-year-old.
To defend herself.
Yes. Say she was a 25-year-old woman. Say she was me in my own home and somebody was trespassing in my home and I'm a licensed gun carrier and I go pull my gun out and I shoot the person, but I called the police officer because I needed them to come because I didn't feel safe. But this person continued to try to attack me and I pulled out, instead of a knife, I pulled out a gun and shot that person. Does it sound better to you then? And everybody's going to be like, well, she was defending herself. That is exactly what was happening in the situation. She didn't have no gun. She didn't have nothing like that. She had a knife, something from the house. And here's my thing. And she was defending herself. Here's my thing, though. If she would have stabbed the girl or whatever, say potentially that girl maybe would have been hurt, whatever the case may be, somebody could have possibly been alive. But a bullet, most likely, will kill you. And 4 times, she was shot in her chest because her life didn't matter in that moment. They didn't even try to assess the situation. I know people are saying, there wasn't no time to assess. There was a knife. You ever hear people say, don't bring a knife to a gunfight? Right? because one is worse than the other. Am I right or am I wrong? Secondly, let's never forget that officers take knife-wielding people, white people, they take white murderers to Burger King. They take white murderers to Burger King, right? And if this girl would have did something as possibly stabbed, she would have had to pay the price or maybe go to jail or whatever the case may be. Right, I don't know.
Right.
But don't forget, when white folks do their duties or do whatever, they get taken to Burger King, right? And this girl, they didn't even give her an opportunity to to live, to do nothing, to be wrong, nothing. They shut her down on her own property for defending herself. So excuse me if I'm passionate about a little girl getting shot, getting murdered in cold blood, because when they pulled up, what they saw was a grown woman.
Right.
Was a grown woman, and they didn't care which one of them called.
Of all,
they're shooting. Not assessing the situation. And then my last point before I end it. Officers are trained, okay? They are trained. Literally, when you sign up to be a cop, when you sign up to be an officer, the first thing is not to take your gun out and shoot. Now, yes, that's systemic. White folks get away with it. White cops get away with it all the time. Black cops get away with it all the time because they all think the same. But when you sign up to be a cop, you sign up to de-escalate, and your de-escalation may be jumping on the girl's back, pulling her by the legs, possibly getting, hurt by the knife or whatever. You sign up for that because there are more ways. Pull out the taser, get close to her, pull out the taser. There are more ways than pulling out your gun and shooting somebody dead. That is not the only way to de-escalate a situation. Because you guys cannot tell me that there was no other option for this cop, because I've watched them on videotape do so much, men running up to them with knives, and they have de-escalated situations. They're trained to do that. So forgive me for being a little passionate about this, but I will not stand for that rhetoric. That was a child. A child who wanted to live, who didn't want to get beat up in her home, who wanted to feel safe.
So that's the thing, man. Like, people see the knife and then they end the story, and they're like, "Oh, well, nope, there it is. She should have got that. She should have got shot." And they have no desire whatsoever to put it in context, like you just did, Rebecca. But here is and forgive me, I said 16, I said 15, but she's 16. Here's a 16-year-old girl fighting for her life, and she's the one who gets killed by police, the very people she called for help. I think you said it at the very beginning of what you were saying, Rebecca. It is, people are so conditioned to black trauma that they buy any excuse given to them by the police, right? Anything. Like, there were so many other options at that cop's disposal besides shooting her 4 times. He didn't mistake it for a taser that time, right? They made the mistake. They always seem to make the mistake in the wrong direction. Make a mistake in the right direction where you could have preserved someone's life. And you're so right. I have seen so many encounters of, especially a woman. We say white man, like, I've seen white men come at cops with knives, and they give him all the benefit of the doubt, and they all of a sudden they remember their training. All of a sudden they doing some jujitsu and some shit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But they, like all of a sudden they are ready to take it man to man, but let it be a black child, a girl, and they just unloading her. But let it have been a white woman. Mm-hmm. Do you think for a second, had this been a white girl, that they would have solved this situation by shooting her 4 times in the back? Absolutely the hell not. And that's the disparity. That's the difference. They would have done everything in their power to preserve the life of a white girl. But what do? In the same exact scenario, they would have protected that white girl's life with their own. Mm-hmm. But what do? It's a black girl. 4 times. Shot her. Killing her.
And y'all are right, because just like you said, if that was a white girl, wouldn't have happened. They would have done everything in their power not to shoot her. They probably would have let her stab the other person.
Yes.
Instead of shooting them. And
they
still
would
would
have
have de-escalated like that.
They would have questioned what is going on that has this little white girl responding like this. She must be in danger. But they don't interpret black lives like that. They're like, oh no, this is the danger that has to be taken down. That's the benefit of the doubt that we don't get in this country. We are not given the benefit of the doubt of our humanity for someone to look at our situation and say for a couple of seconds, what is going on? The very first thing they do is shoot us.
Yeah. And that's what people need to understand. I don't know why we go so hard when, say we have to see it from the perspective of us, right? And that's basically, knees on the neck, getting shot in the back, just things like that. But when we're defending ourselves, and because there's a weapon, and because that perspective and that works for the narrative of the police officers and everybody else, because when I was reading through the comments, everybody was like, yeah, she had that knife, shoot her dead. She had that knife, shoot her dead. But did y'all forget that she was defending herself? Defending myself, calling the cops. I called the cops, and I'm defending myself as I wait for the cops to come. Now these people are trying to fight me. I don't even know the cops pull up. I'm protecting myself in this moment. And rather than the cops coming to separate and, they shoot me dead. They didn't even know which one. They didn't care which one.
They did not care.
Didn't care. And so they were saying, well, look, she had a knife and it was no time to assess the situation. So, okay, she's on her property. She wants to be safe. So literally, she's not worried about the safety of the other woman. She's worried about her own safety. So what are y'all talking about? Well, somebody she was going to kill that girl. The girls came to hurt her. They came to hurt her. Like, what are y'all not getting? She did not deserve to die like that. She didn't. And if she would have stabbed the girl, maybe she would have went to jail. So, she didn't deserve to die. Like, her life didn't matter. And
but she had a knife, Rebecca. She had a knife. So that's everything is everything, Yeah,
Right.
Never mind, these guys have AR-15s and they come out of it alive.
They get fed. They get Burger
Whoppers
King.
and shit. Mm-hmm.
They can come out with a whole cache of guns, like come out here looking like Neo in the Matrix, open up and they get taken alive.
Mm-hmm.